Hey, Steve.
Hey Ben, how are you?
Very good. I'm very excited about our first podcast together. This is really
It
good.
is, and I don't know though if Hamish and Andy have got anything to worry about.
Yeah, as you said earlier, I think Channel 9 will be ringing us soon to sign the contract. So I'm excited.
Yeah, why not? Indeed. Hey, so welcome everybody to Freshwater Futures, first in what will be six podcasts, and we're going to run them over the next 6 weeks. I would like to introduce myself and Ben. So my name's Steve Shaw, and I'm the Chief Revenue Officer for Freshwater Futures, and I've been with Ben for the last couple of weeks. Ben, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, great. I'm the founder of Freshwater Futures based in Melbourne here in Australia.
Thank you. Short and sweet. So what we've called this Navigating the Future. And today, the first episode will basically be around Freshwater Futures, what the offerings are, and a little bit around where Ben sees the overall AI environment today. And then we've got a few other episodes. So episode 2 will be the first step, getting started with enterprise AI. And there'll be a number of themes in there as well. And then episode 3 will be discover what's possible and AI ideation that works. And again, we'll have a number of topics that we're going to cover off in there. Episode 4 will be build fast, learn fast, prototyping for real results. Episode 5 will be AI agents in action and the frontline revolution. And episode 6, the final one, the finale, will be delivering AI in the real world and what it takes. And one of the reasons that we decided we really wanted to do this, there's a lot of smoke and mirrors around AI at the moment. And one of the things that we do at Freshwater Futures here, and the way that Ben has built the organization, is we really have a different way of going to market. So in this episode, I'm basically going to ask a few questions of Ben. And really what I'd love to do is, first and foremost, Ben, how did you come up with the organization? And more importantly, something I've always wanted to know, how did you come up with the name?
Ah, yeah. So during the pandemic, I was living in Freshwater Place here in Melbourne. And yeah, the name of the building and the fact that coming up with names is incredibly hard in many disciplines meant that first Freshwater Academy and now Freshwater Futures were my first two businesses over that period.
So you discovered then that there was a gap in the market. Can you just talk a little about what that?
Yeah. So yeah, I guess I started Freshwater Futures a few years ago, mainly because there was this moment in my career where up until then, I'd become less technical over time. I'd gone from someone who was, passionate about agile and product management and, goal setting. I was teaching OKRs, but a few years ago, something really shifted. And one of the founders of Google actually echoed this and said for the first time in their sort of computer science career, things had got really exciting, so exciting that they were back in the trenches, rolling their sleeves up. And that's been my experience, that there is so much exciting things happening in the computer science space right now that it's the best time to be involved. It's so exciting. I'm learning and experiencing new things every day. It's just so incredible. So yeah, I'm all in on this topic and I set up the business because of that.
Well, so let's not forget, you get the chance to work with me.
Huh, brilliant, right? Total win.
All right. So as we know, you've got 4 pillars in the organization. We have education, discovery, prototyping, and implementation. And that's the thing I love about Freshwater Futures is the way that we go to market is very different to a lot of other organizations that are potentially out there offering AI solutions. You're not turning up with a box and saying, hey, it can do X, Y, and Z. And yes, we can tweak it to maybe do a few other things. And yes, we can possibly get there. It really is a true end-to-end consultative approach. Can you just give us a bit of a overview of each of those pillars?
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, so in short, it almost matches my experience in market. So last year, mostly was spent talking about AI because the executives I was working with were saying to me, we're not really ready yet to go and implement these AI technologies. What we need to know is what we don't know. We don't know what we don't know. And what we'd like is the absolute foundations from strategic and executive level. So the education pillar is things like keynotes for the whole staff, but also probably more importantly, both one-on-one and small team executive briefings and AI for leaders training. We do a full day AI for Leaders workshop that's been very popular. In fact, we're about to roll it out to another ASX top 20 organization this month. And what that means is providing the kind of training and hands-on experience to take you from, I don't really feel comfortable with this topic, to having enough confidence to begin thinking about what your strategy might be, what the opportunities might be. And that's our next pillar, discovery.
Can we just, before we go to discovery, can I just ask a couple of questions around the education and specifically around the workshops? Do you find that the people that attend those workshops, they come from all different facets and departments inside the organization? It's not just potentially the AI team or the IT team.
That's right. Yeah. So all the programs we've run publicly and privately for organizations include a massive cross section of both skill level and role. In fact, mostly not technology teams for the AI for Leaders training. It's typically leaders of people teams, marketing teams, operations across the functions. And what we see consistently is people come into the training scoring somewhere between 3 to 5 out of 10 on their comfort with AI, and they're leaving somewhere in the 7 to 9 range, feeling much more confident with their base foundational understanding, things like the terminology. Okay, so that's been a huge win, being able to see people in just one day go from not really getting it to feeling confident.
Great. And discovery?
Yeah, and so once you're confident enough to understand a little bit about the concepts, it's a really good opportunity to, with the combination of our facilitated ideation and prioritization workshops, look at what's possible in your industry, look at your context, and then make that laundry list of ideas. You know, where could we play? What's the blue ocean? What's the list of all the AI opportunities in my space? And then ranking those in terms of how likely it is to be something worth investing in. What we're looking for there is to come out with a little bit of a roadmap, potentially for just the next financial year, for investment in like prototyping and implementation of AI. So at the end of that, you've got a really good idea of where you might focus your energies and investment.
And then, of course, when you get into that prototyping, that's where the fun really starts, I would imagine.
Absolutely. I feel like this is the reason I started my company, is so I get to explore and innovate at the cutting edge of technology. So what we're doing is we're trying to put something in between. I've come up with a great idea and I'm spending a lot of money on it because I've decided to go ahead with implementation. And so we very much play strongly in this space where we create a safe to experiment environment to take your idea that you've identified in discovery and validate and test it before you spend millions of dollars on it, before you switch it on to potentially tens of thousands of customers. And this is that space, the prototyping programs are really popular, huge amounts of fun, but you learn so much, both what's possible and what works and what's valuable.
A true collaboration.
Yeah, so we're using cross-functional teams in our prototyping workshops, which means we provide AI expertise. Sometimes we provide service design expertise, and clients often will provide business and product expertise, and they'll also partner with us by providing technology staff. And this allows their tech teams and our tech teams to work together to learn, and they come away not only with a great business case for the project, but the learning and experience of building AI solutions together with us means that they're much better equipped to go off and do their own AI projects in the future.
And then finally moving into implementation production.
Yeah, we like to have a completely separate program because AI is not the same as typical software projects, and you need to apply different techniques, different technologies, different testing methodologies in order to make sure that what you put out to market is both secure, safe, not biased, provides the accuracy you want, and does it at the cost that makes sense. So a lot of what we spend our time in implementation is thinking about what's the cost optimization here? What advanced techniques can we use to take something and make it 10 times cheaper, 1,000 times cheaper, and produce the same level of quality of result? And the good news is there's a lot of techniques we can apply there, but we definitely don't recommend spending that money before you have a tested, validated prototype, because you're wasting a lot of investment at that point if you have a bad idea and then you spend all the money productionizing it.
Which is, again, a real fresh approach in the industry. So who are you working with?
Yeah, so we're working with a number of amazing organizations. I've been lucky enough to, in my career, work with heaps of enterprise organizations over the years, everywhere from banks to education providers. But since Freshwater Futures started, we had a huge amount of interest from very large retailers. Currently working with Telstra Super, which is a financial service provider here in Australia. And we're working with a major Australian university, very large media company, ASX, a couple of ASX top 20 clients that we're under NDA with at the moment. And these kinds of enterprise clients, what they're looking for is a way of innovating and experimenting safely. In the case of Telstra Super, a highly regulated environment that they want to protect the financial system. They're APRA regulated, ASIC regulated. And so one of our expertise, I guess, is working within the constraints of the organization and unlocking their innovation despite that.
Which is, you're working with a business which is incredibly risk averse because they have to be, because that's the business that they're in. And the approach that you bring to that is that they have a safe environment, as you say, to play in and build. And then by the time that you get to that point where you're going ahead with implementation, you've ticked a lot of those boxes off, which are invariably very hard to tick off. So you've actually done those boxes.
Absolutely. Yeah. What's interesting about the discovery and prototyping programs is you get the chance to test your AI governance out. You can try it out in a safe environment to see if you've put all of the risk management, security management processes in place. And we find it's the first time for some organizations where we're testing that governance with a real use case, a real opportunity that we're building, but we're doing it in such a way that there is no risk to the production systems of the organization. We use separate environments and we partner with companies like Microsoft and AWS and Google to use trusted environments that the client can segregate from their production systems.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. Looking into the future, because we do spend a lot of time looking there and working towards, of course. So where is Freshwater Futures going to be in the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, wow, what a question. I wonder in the AI industry if we can even imagine 5 years out. Yeah. If I look at the last few years, we're looking at 1,000 times change, the pace of change. I think we kind of like maybe overestimate how fast things will change in the short term, like as in the whole world will change tomorrow. But I think what we're underestimating is over 5 years, how much change we will see. So I think we're seeing accelerated exponential change in technology. And 5 years is almost impossible to imagine. But what I hope is that AI continues to unlock this sense of immense self-efficacy, agency, the ability to do things you've never been able to do before, to have a life that suits you. I can learn anything, I can build anything, and I can achieve anything with support from the latest AIs. And I think there's a real human benefit, and I hope that the benefits continue to outweigh the risks.
Thank you for that. It's a cracking segue into my next question. When we think about AI today and the things we've read in the press and everything that we see, it's going to take over the organization, nobody's going to have a job anymore, when we think about all of that, where do you see the human in AI today?
Yeah, it's interesting. I thought we're doing some work on customer service experience redesign. And my initial thinking was all the humans involved in operations were going to hate talking to us because they would feel like we're coming there to take their jobs. And my experience in the real world has been the complete opposite. When I talk to someone who does a boring part of their job, let's say they spend an hour writing a piece of communication that is absolutely repetitive and it's slightly different for every customer. So I'm using like a teeny bit of intelligence and I'm doing it hundreds of times a week. What I'm finding is, these humans are excited about the possibilities of faster, easier, better work that's more interesting, where the drudgery is cut away.
So the opposite to where you thought you were going to be sat in the corner with the naughty hat on.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not seeing the resistance from anyone across many clients that we were expecting in terms of, outright rejection. I guess the clients I'm working with, they're fairly leading, cutting edge clients. They're the kinds of people who engage us, who are interested in being, at the leading edge of their industry. And what I'm finding is their staff want to learn, want to use AI. In fact, I think one of the biggest complaints I hear is that the organizations aren't going fast enough. They're not unlocking the tools quick enough. And that's an exciting place to be.
When we think about your client base today, it's not just for the large enterprises. This is a solution that sits across a whole diverse client base. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, from small startups to large enterprise, everyone is affected. And yeah, I've really enjoyed working with even a theatre, like all kinds of clients come to us for education, prototyping and implementation services. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, Ben, thank you for answering all my questions. I think it's been really engaging. I'm looking forward to doing the next number of episodes. We'd like anybody, if you want to get involved, then, drop us an email. We want to make this as interactive as possible. We'd love leaders and organizations also to come on here. We will actually have a guest spot. We're just working on what that looks like at the moment. But this is the first one we've done. So thanks if you have tuned in for this. You've been listening to Steve and Ben from Freshwater Futures. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you.
A great one. Thanks for having us.